fast, but it's a heck of a lot of fun as well. Um, and we can, you know, have a chat in a bit more detail later on if you guys have got any specific questions having seen this. Um, so my background, London born and bred. I went to the University of Warwick, where I did a career in politics and languages, and spent a year or a bit more than a year actually living in Italy, and I think what a lot of you will probably be thinking right now is, how does someone with that background get into the career that I'm into now? And yes, absolutely. It wasn't a vocational degree by any stretch of the imagination, but what I did have was a filter. What I did have was a passion, in particular, for sports. Probably a very similar theme that you guys will hear this evening from all of us. Um, Again, I used to play cricket quite seriously, but wasn't particularly good enough to take it on professional level. So thought, well, what else could I do in the world of sport? I had this big territory, this big idea, so but I didn't know specifically what I wanted to do with it, and kind of went on this, you know, without trying to sound too cliche, a bit of a journey of discovery, really, to find what it was that I wanted to do. So 2000, approximately 2004 to 2007, I would describe as my my clueless um, phase really is I went to you know try a few a few things really and along the way I had a number of adventures. I worked at ING Media um, and sports consultancy, doing a couple of placements and internships there. I worked at BBC Sports um, for a couple of weeks, one summer. Um, I worked at Sky Sports as well, which is pretty interesting experience. I worked all over Christmas and New Year 2005, 2006. Christmas Day 2005, I had to leave the party early. I had to drive to Isles of Wight, which is where Sky are based. I had to stay up all night putting the highlights package together for the boxing day test between South Africa and Australia in Melbourne. I did the same over New Year as well, so it wasn't particularly popular that year, but you know, these things kind of pay off in the end. Um, when I was at university as well, I was a sports journalist for the uni paper, which is the Warwick Ball, and I actually had a bit of a flirt with the career in that space as well by doing an kind of culminated really in a decision to enter the world of sports marketing. I had a lot of this experience, which served me really well at the time. I don't think I realised quite how beneficial having this kind of bits and bobs, you know, there. But I think from an employer's perspective now that I'm on the other side of the fence, really, the common theme, the common thread with sports. I think I was able to demonstrate a certain amount of commercial understanding, even know about that, and I probably can tell you too much about sponsorship, what I would do it, and some of the benefits that come with getting involved. So in 2007, sort of the right place, the right time. You know, this is pre the economic crash. Brands had a little bit more money at their disposal, were a bit more liberal with their budgets, and didn't require the kind of justification for their spend that certainly we have to put forward quite a lot today. So I joined a very reputable agency which remains so to this day, called MEC Access, which is part of the WPP group. MEC, I cut my teeth predominantly working on um, Xerox photocopy brand, Amlin insurance brand. I've never worked with too many sexy brands in my life, but it seems to be a common theme. But the work that we've done was pretty good and a great way to cut my teeth. Certainly. Um, Xerox were at the time title sponsor of a World Superbike team. Some of you may not know about World Superbike. It's kind of the two-wheel equivalent of Formula One, sort of a little bit, not quite up there with Formula One in terms of two-wheel category, but lots of events experience, lots of activation. I went to a lot of the circuits and managed the races all across Europe from about 2007 to 2009. Amlin insurance was another client that we had. Anyone got any rugby experience in here, or rugby, like a bit of rugby? You probably remember when Amlin came into the world of European club rugby. Yeah, we bought them in to what is now uh, the funk tournament is the Heineken Cup and the Amlin Challenge Cup as well. So, you know, a good way to cut my teeth, but I think, to be honest, that I was pretty fresh, a little bit behind the years, as I've said there. I think my time of momentum certainly made me go up from a logistics company through to uh, um, brand activation for the likes of Rico and other um, photocopy company. Um, and I also worked on Genworth European Tour Golf and various other bits and bobs. Um, what really hit home, I think, about my time at Momentum, which is certainly a common theme in the agency world, is the commercial focus and the commercial requirements in Momentum, US agency, and place a lot of emphasis on numbers, which is incredibly beneficial from a career perspective, because you get to learn and run your accounts like they're your own piece of business. Um, Overall, but then equally you have the pressure of targets, forecasts, and of revenue that needs to be booked by the end of the year, and certainly if you're not able to hit your numbers, then you've got to have a good reason as to why that's not the case. Um, but certainly, although I would say that this 3 years has been the most challenging to my in my career to date. They've certainly been the most productive from my perspective. Um, which then led me to move to Fuse, really. I mentioned that my experience at Momentum was quite integrated, um, which is great. Got insight to lots of different things, but I marketing and sponsorship game, having had that thread throughout my career today, um, joined Fuse Sports an entertainment agency in January this year. Um, and you know, joined a fantastic time for them, and for us, I should say, as a winning sports marketing consultant of the year in some uh, quite reputable UK-based sponsorship awards, but also timing from a Nissan perspective. They are my main global client, and since I have joined a finalised big sponsorship deals with the UEFA Champions League and with City Football Group, which is the family of clubs that managed by Manchester City. Um, you know, real leader in the space and spending lots of money, which is which is great for them, and you know, gives us some really great work to do, um, as well. So that's kind of 50% of my time at Fuse. The other 50% of my time I spend a lot of new business. Uh, um, I work on a lot of pitches, new business opportunities, and I do one-off bits and pieces of work for uh, clients as well. Most of the other kind of a strategic nature rather than execution stuff. beginning of my career. So, bit of, you know, there was a theory. What does what does my week last week look like? Just to give you some context. It was quite. It wasn't a normal week. I'll give you that. You'll see why in a minute. Um, I was in Dubai. Um, so we flew in pretty late on the Sunday, and had to obviously prep for Tuesday in our Dubai office. Tuesday we did a sponsored strategy workshop for an Emirati, sorry, yeah, an Emirate-based client called Zoo, who are an extension of Vodafone, and one of only two telecommunications companies out there. So I finished that. Then on Wednesday, I had to prepare for an African Cup of Nations contingency plan. An African Cup of Nations is the European Championship equivalent competition in Africa. Nissan are also a sponsor of that, and with the Ebola crisis, there was done for now. Um, on Thursday, you probably saw in my slide before a picture of Andrews and Iniesta, who is the Barcelona footballer. Have a heck of a lot of sponsors and ambassadors and personalities they use to front a lot of their campaigns. So I was working on a strategic piece for that. And then Friday I was a bit tired, so I didn't really do much. Um, so before closing out, I just kind of want to take it back to how I started the presentation. Really, just to, just to make sure that you're fully aware of some of the challenges and also some of the great things that come with working in my world. Um, return of investment must be in front of mind. You know, 10 years ago, sponsorship was a very, very different game. With the amount of money that clients are spending now on deals, you know, at the forefront of your mind must be what is in it for them, what's the benefit for them, justifying the business case to all of their spend and equally making sure that all of our ideas and thinking that we're doing is filtered through this funnel of this filter of return on investment, commercial focus from an agency perspective. So I mentioned my time at Men's, I got some great training and insight into that world, and from you know we are so ultimately have the pressures that come with that. Um, Nimble multitasking, not just from you know changing rapidly changing types of work that we do on a day-to-day basis from a strategy to an outcome contingency plan, for example, but also you as an individual, you know, doing things beyond your your daily duties and taking your own experience forward proactively is something that we look for. Um, and the kind of the reality is working with clients that perhaps belie the theory. Um, you know, you're working with people, you're working with personalities. Some of the clients that we have aren't natural marketeers. They've been rotated into their position, sometimes making decisions out of it, you know, expediency rather than perhaps, you know, logic and rationale. As in, if you of them who do that, but some just being prepared for the fact that the world of client management is very, very, very different and take some kind of getting used to, as these guys will attest to as well. Um, and what we kind of look for really in people, I think, starting out, I got a quote here from Goodwill Hunting. Has anyone seen Goodwill Hunting? So it's film Robert Williams. He mentor was a flawed genius in that and but I think the, the purpose of this quote really is that you know you guys are in a really privileged position. You've got a lot of a lot of theory, a lot of background, a lot of qualification stuff that many of us didn't have in our industry. But I think you know what we really look for is being able